soon, because he's going to be a little bit under now economically. And he hasn't done any sort of economic damage, so that's not really helping him out at all. Going around planting some mines to using those as spotters to make sure that he knows they're doing. Some probes milling around endlessly, not doing anything. Guemchi apparently getting them lost due to waypoint mistakes or something. Again, a couple of vultures trying to move in, not gonna do anything except spot the probes moving out into their new expansion. Probes actually doing a temporary job of blocking off. One probe apparently still a little bit waypoint mistake there, because the probe blocked them off. They didn't quite know the exact way to go. Even probes apparently couldn't go through that choke there, but this three-way block into that upper right base, the probes are going to be able to go through. But now, so Leta has to go around and do some sort of economic damage right now, put up his own base. Now he's exactly doing that, building his command center so he can take his lower left, but he's still going to be a little bit economically behind, because every single attack that he's tried to do on Guemchi has really pushed him back. Don't know what that damage. Army is just not being put down, so we're going to see some Goliaths as well as upgrades. Upgrades coming in very late. You see that a lot in PvTs these days, that upgrades, both players don't always worry about upgrades that badly because they need some other force, but Goliaths on the field are really going to help Leta out to take out these observers, which are really being a pain in the butt for him. Also going to help him prevent Guemchi from using those shuttles to his advantage. Still a few Dragoons waiting in the main of Guemchi just in case there are some dropships coming in. There is actually a dropship coming in from the south. I'm not quite sure. There's those two vultures. I believe it might have even more vultures around there, just so far planting mines at different expansions where Guemchi could think of expanding. There are also still a Vaduna out ready for Guemchi, so he's going to get those Zealot speed upgrade fairly soon. Nothing too much going on here, just both players building up, getting a decent sized army, building up their macro. Leta so far has quite a few tanks. They're along vultures, but not really much else. Forge also not coming up for Guemchi. He's also going to get his weapons upgrades fairly soon. Gonna see whether he techs up to Templar Archives and goes for High Templar alongside to help him against those tank numbers. Pushing out with quite a few Dragoons out, though, is gonna get caught by those tanks and vultures in position. Depending on how he moves, he's actually Guemchi moving in from the north while Leta's defending mostly at the south, so if Guemchi plays his right, it could actually catch him off guard. Still has quite a few Dragoons inside of his main, defending. Now moving out with those Dragoons and Observer just to take out, and still has a large contingent of Dragoons at the north to back up, so he actually has two rather large, almost control groups of Dragoons moving around. Also now finally has Zealots to back up. He's going to need those. A lot of mines alongside turrets and siege tanks in position for Leta, so we're not going to see Guemchi move out in those positions. He has a lot of forces everywhere, but not really ready for that. Also has the shuttle, so he's probably going to use that for Zealot bombs. More Zealots being produced, so Guemchi's sticking mostly to Zealot production at this point. Dropship going to come in. Dragoons! Oh, not in position, so the vultures are actually going to come behind this probe line. Are going to be able to do some damage. We're going to see whether Guemchi decides to counter this by pushing back one vulture in position, and it's going to take the Dragoons quite a bit of time to run back there. And one tank siege tank actually going to go with the natural, going to shell the probes there. Ooh, that's quite a bit damage. One kill though, only. So Guemchi with good reaction time to get those back. Shuttle almost dropshippers are almost getting caught. Now going to run towards this position at the upper right. There is a cannon there. I believe a second cannon morphing in as well. Tank is, however, just going to siege at the location. Probe's going to get pulled off the line and going to engage the tank, surround it and engage it. Tank is going to unsiege and going to be ferried away from the dropship. So very good reactions overall from Guemchi. He has lost a few probes here and there, but not too much killing blows from him. Still has a larger troop number than Leta, and if he thinks of pushing out, he might be doing a lot of damage. I think what Guemchi needs to do at this point is deny that expansion that Leta's just put up, and if he manages to do that, it's going to be disposition only. Unfortunately, to do so, he's going to have to move right into his tank line, which is really what he does not want to do, obviously. Okay, hidden pylon up at the upper left. We're going to see whether Guemchi actually decides to put an expansion there, or whether that's for some sort of tech hidden. Now the Dragoons and Zealots are actually going to barrel down towards this position. There are quite a few tanks that are waiting for him, some vultures also, and a few buildings blocking off. We're going to see whether Guemchi actually manages to still tanks still holding, and the Dragoons are actually going to be pushed back. Some Dragoons losing their lives, some Zealots sacrificing themselves. Not too much damage done overall. Guemchi smartly pushing back in time just before he lost too many forces. Temple Archives now also coming for him, and he is actually going to expand the upper right-hand corner, being very, very aggressive, expanding, hoping that Leta does not spot that. But if that does get spotted by Leta, he's going to be in such a good position to take that out. Just sometimes it does pay off to take a hidden expansion where your opponent does not expect it, because sometimes they simply do not spot it. I've seen it happen before, and it has been just a critical thing in winning you the game when your opponent thinks, hey, we're even on expansions when we're actually not. You know, it's real help. Observer in the base of Leta's for Guemchi. Guemchi at all times knows exactly what he's looking for, knows exactly what Leta's going for, getting the full scout. While the same cannot really be said for Leta. He's not getting the full-on scout, but now finally has that upper left, so that is going to have a lot of siege tanks and a lot of vultures moving out of that position. So we're going to see whether Guemchi actually starts to use for only one single photon cannon in position, and we're going to see whether Guemchi is moving a bunch of dragoons towards that location, so he's definitely going to try to make sure that it doesn't have to cancel that. Going to start to move those dragoons very close to the tank so he can engage those at range, and actually is going to be able to clean up these forces. Those vultures not going to be able to do too much. Apparently don't have mines because they're not planning them down. Nexus is actually going to go down, or actually go up. I know that some people get confused when you say go down because they think that they get destroyed, but sometimes ourselves, we're paying attention and kind of forget what the hell we're talking about. Science facility along up, so Leta should be is ready to get any upgrades needs. I'm not quite sure if he has a second armory at this point or not. He should. Probes being ferried towards his upper left, and really Guemchi really has to block that off with even more forces there, and a bunch of vultures trying to move in, but the pylons, cannons in position to block them off. Just Guemchi playing very smart, just putting a lot of pylons, just limiting himself with just a small enough choke to move dragoons out of his base. But other than that, just keeping a very close attention to everything that he's doing. Paying very close attention to what Leta is doing. Random zealot going around clearing some mines, getting a decent amount of mine clearing, killing one of two Karma is getting killed in the process. It's good dragoons. You die a second time, and the second time's a sweeter time. Another mine going off, though. I'm not quite sure if that actually managed to get out. Just a bunch of mines overall. No observers in the location. I think it's a little bit bad for Guemchi. Guemchi still has an observer. I think he should be able to produce a lot. Leta now with a huge army of forces. A lot of vultures, a lot of tanks, a few Goliaths alongside as well. First Stargate now coming up just now for Guemchi, so he's just now thinking of upping to Arbiters. I honestly think he should have had Arbiters for a little while now. Has that shuttle though, so he's going to have some Zealot bombs to help him out against those tank positioning. Tanks is moving on a large contingent. Huge line there, now sieging up everywhere. Zealots are going to stream in and actually are going to push back a little bit because Guemchi in a little bit disadvantaged position. Both players are trying to take this ridge here at the north ridge. Tanks are moving out, not really going to be deal too much. Still just sieging up, planting up down a bunch of mines. We're going to see whether Zealot bombs go up or not. Didn't see a lot of Goliath, so I'm not quite sure how effective that is. A pylon alongside a few cannons is going to be put at the north. That's simply to defend that position so Guemchi can have an easier time of it. Observer, I'm not quite sure if the observer went down or not. There was a Goliath trying to take it down. Even more dragoons are moving around. Just both parts just trying to push each other back. And Leta has such a huge army. You can see it on the minimap how much red there is compared to small blob of purple that there's. And Leta might actually move north here. He has armor 1, weapons 2, while Guemchi only has weapons 1 at this point, probably upgrading weapons 2. Leta also trying to take the 6 o'clock base, get his 4th expansion going just as Guemchi has been economically ahead the entire time, meanwhile just trying to take his 5th base at the 12 o'clock, but Leta has been doing a little bit more with his macro, has much more troops, has been doing a little bit more damage in army count. High Templar now also gonna have some storms going off in the tanks, beautiful storms, so the tanks not gonna be able to do too much, even more storms going off and even more tanks, and even more storms, nice, so there was a lot of storms hidden up for this, saved up for those High Templar. Now there's one CC gonna float around, gonna get shelled by a few dragoons. Even more High Templar being produced now for Guemchi. So there's High Templar. I think, yeah, even a Dark Templar being produced. So overall, he managed to catch him. He's gonna be able to be in a very good position. Stargate not producing an Arbiter so far, even though there's a Arbiter Tribunal ready for him. I really think he should. Maybe he's a little bit low on minerals. He has to keep up his overall troop making. Such. So a few tanks getting cleared there at the south, so that's a little release. What Guemchi is really trying to do is hold his position at the north so he can take his advantage, using storms really to his advantage, storming everywhere, just adding in extra storms so you can storm those vultures tanks just as they try to move in. And here at the south, meanwhile, they're going to be a Zealot alongside Dragoon, although that command center is going to get repaired, not going to be too much damage. Vultures also not coming into support, so that's not going to be too much damage done, although both players kind of moving in on both sides into their opponent's territory, because you look at the north, Guemchi really is inside of Leta's territory completely, while at the south, Leta just now moving a little bit into his enemy's territory as well. A lot of mines being planted out everywhere, but Leta getting caught. Oh, quite a few dragoons being caught. Be careful, mine! High Templar really don't want to get caught, but now Leta actually moving in towards the north. A lot of storms going on, a lot of storms, losing a lot of vultures there at the start. Leta do. Oh, Guemchi with a beautiful beautiful storms to take out all the vultures. Even more storms going off in a lot of the tanks. More storms hitting in more tanks. Guemchi with beautiful storms overall everywhere. Really saved him there. Could have lost that engagement, but those storms to take out all those vultures really saved him. Let his Zealots stream out to engage some forces. Archon also up because, of course, he melts those forces together into an Archon Zulu's High Templar, and that Archon instantly dies as it screams and howls. Zealot's gonna move around again, clean him, and more mines, trying to get some mine drags going, but far too many mines being laid out. But of course, every single mine that doesn't do too much damage is a help to you. The 12 o'clock location for Guemchi is in a lot of jeopardy, though. Tanks showing it, and the Nexus is actually going to go down. So Guemchi has lost an expansion, while Leta still holds his expansion here at the 6 o'clock. That's what I was going to say, but I think actually at this point that might not be the case, although Leta is streaming some forces alongside Science and some Dragoons there, and Zealots to take those out. I'm not quite sure if Guemchi will manage to take this up, because a lot of tanks also moving in position, so I don't think Guemchi is actually going to be able to take this position out, although he is moving quite a few forces. He's lost his own 12 o'clock, so he really has to take out this expansion here, because Leta is equalizing the position really and taking advantage. He still has a large amount of, despite the amount of forces he lost to storms and such,